Welcome back to Shul Lights. You've got me in the middle of a fire sale here. I'm getting rid of a bunch of lights so I can make room for more review lights. But today, I want to review the ThruNite Catapult V6, this time with the SST-70. This is an interesting emitter. It's very bright, very bright. It's not as small and as throwy as some emitters like an Osram. Here, let me get the exposure set right for, there we go. So you can see it there. It's a little bit bigger than some emitters, but man, does it put out a lot of light. And even though it's, here, let's move this like this. Even though this emitter isn't as small as an Osram W1, W2, it is about the same size, perhaps, maybe die's a little bigger. Yeah, it's a little bigger than the SST-70 on the right here. Okay. And then you've got another SST-70. You can see this is in the KR1, another SST-70. And then over here,
we got an SBT 90.2, which is a much
bigger phosphor surface. So what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at this light today. And, you know, this is kind of an older, more venerable light. I actually asked ThruNite to send this to me. I requested it myself because it's just, there's something about it. I really like it. I can really recommend this to people. I mean, if you're an enthusiast and if you're into endurial and complicated UIs, I mean, I get wanting to go with like a KR1 or something small and pocketable and all that. But I'm telling you, over all the lights that you see right here, right now, if I have to recommend one light to my dad or a neighbor, they say, hey, I want a light that has some serious throw, this is the one. I love it. Easy to operate. It's got a really classic look. I love the anodization. It's just kind of, it's not glossy. I mean, it's kind of shiny. I wouldn't say glossy, but I love this crisscross knurling here. And if you put it against something that, I mean, I think this K9.3 is an attractive light, but there's something so classic looking about this Catapult V6. I actually think it's a better looking light. I just really like the look of it. It's pretty easy to get into, pretty easy to disassemble if you're into that sort of stuff. Another big feature that lets me recommend this to my neighbors and whatnot is the built-in charging. And you got a USB-C port right here so you can charge right in the light. It's got a great form factor, meaning that it's comfortable to hold. Sometimes I feel like the 21700 tubes are just a little, I don't know, they somehow don't make it all the way to the bottom of my hand. They kind of terminate right in my hand, and they're kind of narrow. So like I kind of end up holding them like this because it's like, this is chunky up here. So, I mean, I guess I could do this, but you know, that's also where the heat's generated. So you hold it like this, it terminates early, they're kind of narrow, they're kind of front heavy. But on this one, it's got a 26650, you know, kind of a larger sized battery. Let's take a look at it. It's kind of a big boy, right? 5,000 milliamp hour. It's a good battery. And that makes the diameter of the tube a little bit, oh, and by the way, you got a nice flat button right here and a big old spring at the bottom. There it is. Wait, let's get some light on it. Big old spring at the bottom. So it's making very solid contact, right? This flat surface right here to here. So you're getting maximum efficiency out of that battery. I do like springs on both ends when I'm worried about a battery rattling, okay? But look at that. See how I was having a little bit of trouble threading it? It's not because the threads are bad. It's because that spring is putting a lot of force. So, I mean, and I know that. I know that's what's going on because this tube fits the Hank DM11. I can take this tube off and stick it on here. And on the DM11 here, when you go to thread it on, it's got a spring on this side. And I'm just having a heck of a time getting this tube on there. I can, but with this hefty spring down here, it's just putting so much force that it was just kind of troublesome getting it on there. But anyways, I guess what I'm just, trying to say here is I really like the feel of this light. I'm going to put my finger on the button here. It goes a little deeper into my hand. If I want to hold it higher like I would on the Hank light, it goes all the way through to where I want it. It's a wider diameter. I like the feel of this knurling. And this button is it's kind of clicky, and I like it. It's great. It's got a little indicator. So, good light. I mean, and the indicator too, right? This is really good because Endurial, yeah, you can do a series of button presses and then read the voltage, and that's nice if you're an enthusiast. This is the kind of light where it's like, it's just, okay, it's blue, I'm good to go. It's blue. It turns red when it's low, it flashes, it tells you everything you need to know, and then you just charge it right there. So this reflector, I want to talk about that for a second. This reflector is awesome. I love this thing. If you look at other reflectors like this, there's something about the way this one's designed, and I'm not going to get technical here because I wouldn't even really know where to start. But when we go outside, look at the hotspot and how the hotspot goes into the corona, into the spill, kind of more smooth than on these other three. We're going to be looking at this Convoy M21A right here, this KR1, and this L7 SPT 90.2. We'll take a look at all four of these lights together and see what we think, all right? We're going to take a look at lumens in a moment here, but before I do, I just wanted to point out that this comes in a nice heavy-duty cardboard box, kind of a clamshell like this. And when you open it up, it's got a really nice printed manual on how to use it. Again, this stuff doesn't really matter to the enthusiast usually, but if you're giving this as a gift to somebody else, it's pretty darn important that they know how to use their light, how to charge it. And it comes with some great accessories here. You've got lanyard and O-rings, but you've got the charging cable, right? Because it's USB-C to USB-A, and it comes with a little belt pouch. So I just wanted to point out this is a complete kit, really good for gifting, right? Let's talk about the lumens. So we're looking at four lights right now, all right? We're looking at two SST-40s. This one I modded myself, put it in a KR1 here. This SST-40 is running on 50% FET on a 7.5 amp driver. I'm getting about 2,000 lumens, about 1950 or so, but let's just say 2,000. This Convoy M21A, it's also an SST-40, and with the driver that Simon puts in here, I'm getting about 1,800 lumens, so just around the same, a tad less, 1,800. This guy is putting out 2,400 lumens on the nose at 0 seconds, and then on ANSI, it only drops to about 2,300, and it sits there. Like, this thing is well regulated. It's doing something good in there because it's just not dropping like lights generally drop. So I really liked seeing that. And then we're going to pit it against something much larger and much bigger, the Convoy L7 with the SPT 90. And this thing's a 4,000 lumen light. But I just wanted to point out, and I chose this on purpose because this light should destroy this one. And I mean, it's much bigger, generates more heat. It's just a bigger, badder light, right? And yet I feel like this little guy that just fits so nicely in my hand can keep up with this and actually has a better beam. So let's go outside and take a look at that beam. All right, we're outside. We got our white balance locked to daylight, which is 5,200 Kelvin, and we got our exposure locked as well. I got the two SST-40s in front of me, and this one is a KR1 SST-40. This is from, the emitter is from Simon, just like this entire light is. The only difference is I threw it in a Hank KR1. Now, I told you that on the lumen tube, and let's go straight to turbo, this guy was 2,000, and that this one at 100 was 100%, that is 1,800. And you can see they're about equal brightness. But what's different about them is that this one's noticeably greener, and this one's a little whiter. And when we go out to those trees back there, the KR1 doesn't kind of punch as well, and that's because this is a more focused beam. So again, here, let me step it down a little bit so you can see that. Do you see this hard hot spot and this corona? And then notice on this one, there's kind of a more mushy hot spot and then a bigger corona. So that's why when I put it to turbo back here, okay, let's get this one to turbo too. Boop. Notice the difference. Notice that KR1 just doesn't punch as well as the M21A, okay? So that's, what you're paying for. Well, let's just say that's what you're getting by carrying a large host like this versus a little tiny one. It's like, why wouldn't everyone just carry a really pocketable thrower? And the answer is the size of the reflector super matters, even when they're the same emitter, right? Okay, so let's put this one down now. I'm not going to talk about the KR1 anymore. Let's just use this as the sample and note that size of the host and reflector matters. And here's where I'm going to point out that when I pit the ThruNite here, the Catapult, which is about the same length, maybe a little shorter even on the Catapult. Of course, the diameter is much bigger, but that's where that big scoopy reflector really comes in handy. Because check this out. If I go on the ground here, okay, notice, and let me bring this down a little bit. Notice the difference in the beam, okay? Notice that over here we have this hot spot that's really hard and then a definite corona, okay? And the spill out here, hold on, let me turn this off for a second. The spill is out here, you can see it. And then when I go to this one, notice how it's kind of a softer into the corona and then out into the spill. And the spill is much less defined. I like that. I really like the look of that. Now, I understand that this means, oh, whoops, I went back to the high. Here we go. I know that means, let me get to the right level. This is more intense. I get that. But if I'm handing this to, a neighbor or it's a gift, it just looks better. It looks better on nearby objects. See how it looks on the tree there versus see how, it's just very intense. It just looks different, and I like the look of this a lot more than that. It's too hard, too different. This is kind of, smooth. Now let's put them both on the highest setting. Okay, there's high, and let's go to turbo over here. All right, and let's take a look. So I got the Catapult in my right hand. I like the Catapult. The Catapult's brighter to me. I really like the look of it. And so it is a bigger emitter, but the bigger reflector is really helping make it punch up around where this SST-70 is, which is a smaller emitter, and it should be throwier. I'm sure that if the SST-70 was in the Catapult, it would be even throwier. But I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I kind of like that the Catapult is not an ultra thrower. It is a thrower. It absolutely is. But what I'm saying is it looks so good on these trees here. And this is like, it's too surgical. The Convoy, it's too surgical for my taste, at least for what I'm looking for. This is just a really nice thrower. And also, I'm noticing that this one isn't getting hot as fast as this one is. So maybe mass, maybe more efficient driver. It's a good light. Now, let me pit it against the L7. Right, the L7's a big boy. And we're going to go straight to turbo. And it's going to demolish the Catapult, okay? See how much brighter it is, right? But here's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. I like the look of the Catapult. It almost has like a TIR optic look to it, where this is just such a reflector. Here, let me get down to a lower level, so we're comparing more. See that? So at an output level that's more similar, you can still see how concentrated it is because the reflector is so big, because it's such a massive reflector compared to, I just like the look of this beam. Just a real fan of it. It's a good light, man. I'm definitely going to keep it. That's why I asked ThruNite to send me one, because I just knew that it was going to be a winner. I have so many pencil beams. I have so many of them. And this guy it just has a look that I really like. Also a little warmer, isn't it? A little warmer on the trees there. And one other thing that I think is worth noting is the interface on here. It's got this dual click interface where it's on and off on the back here, and then its modes up here. You can do everything from this one button, including strobe, right? So you can press and hold to go to different levels. It just cycles through. I'm just pressing and holding right now. Then when you want to jump to turbo, you just double click. Very intuitive. And then I think if you triple click, 1, 2, 3. Oh, actually it's double click from turbo. So turbo and then just double click again. You get your strobe. So very intuitive, easy to learn interface. Love this light. All right, guys, that's it for now. And I will see you in the next one.